Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. Buddham saranam gacchami, Dhammam saranam gacchami, Sangham saranam gacchami, Dutayambi Buddham saranam gacchami, Dutayambi Dhammam saranam gacchami, Dutayambi Sangham saranam gacchami, Tatayambi Buddham saranam gacchami, Tatayambi Dhammam saranam gacchami, Tatayambi Sangham saranam gacchami. Namo Buddhaya, Namo Dharmaya, Namo Sanghaya, Namo Buddhaya, Namo Dharmaya, Namo Sanghaya, Namo Buddhaya, Namo Dharmaya, Namo Sanghaya. I take refuge until I am enlightened in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. Through the positive potential I create by practicing the 6 paramitas, may I soon attain enlightenment in order to benefit all sentient beings. I take refuge until I am enlightened in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. Through the positive potential I create by practicing the 6 paramitas, may I soon attain enlightenment in order to benefit all sentient beings. I take refuge until I am enlightened in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. Through the positive potential I create by practicing the 6 paramitas, may I soon attain enlightenment in order to benefit all sentient beings. May all sentient beings be happy and have the causes of happiness. May they be free from suffering and the causes of suffering. May they never be parted from their happiness beyond suffering. May they abide in equanimity, free of bias, attachment to the near, and aversion from the far. I shall cause this. Great compassionate Buddha, please inspire me to be able to do so. Reverently, I prostrate with my body, speech, and mind, and present clouds of every types of offerings, actual and mentally transformed. I confess all of my negative actions accumulated since beginningless time, and rejoice in all the virtues of all holy and ordinary beings. Please remain until cyclic existence ends, and turn the wheel of Dharma for all sentient beings. I dedicate the virtues of myself and others to the great enlightenment. However innumerable all sentient beings are, I vow to save them all. However inexhaustible my delusions are, I vow to extinguish them all. However immeasurable the Dharma teachings are, I vow to master them all. However endless the Buddha's way is, I vow to follow it completely. Om Mani Padme Hum. Om Mani Padme Hum. Om Mani Padme Hum. Tayatam gati gati paragati parasamgati bodhisattva. Tayatam gati gati paragati parasamgati bodhisattva. Tayatam gati gati paragati parasamgati bodhisattva. So now time for some meditation practice. Just to remind you, we won't do the Tonglen or giving-taking meditation from now on. Every now and then I may bring it back, like I said, but I still want you to practice it every day yourself, even if it's really short, okay? Very good to develop compassion, to accumulate good merit, also, in fact, infinite merit eventually, and to develop the bodhicitta, altruistic, compassionate intention. Okie doke. So today we won't do that, so we can talk a little bit longer, and we will do the loving kindness meditation though. Before we continue the commentary on verse number 8 of the 8 verses of thought transformation. The first part of that we started last week, and I'll reiterate that as well as add to it, and having our practice remain pure, good intentions, not be stained by the defilements or defiled by the stains of the 8 worldly winds. I think the actual verse says that. Okay, so Forget everything I just said and let's release the tension from the body. Gently close your eyes, lips gently touching, tongue resting on the upper palate, above the top teeth in the mouth. Shoulders nice and relaxed without slouching. Bring your mind to release the tension from the tips of the toes all the way up your legs, to your shoulders, down to the tips of your fingers and to the top of your head. So let's take a few moments to do this now. Now scan your body again to see if there's any leftover tension that you can release. And then release it. When you are ready, bring your mind initially to the tip of your nose and follow the feeling of the breath as you breathe in your nose all the way into your lungs, then back out your nose again. Breathing in, breathing out. Mindfulness of the breath. Aware when your mind wanders from the breath, and then conscientiously replace your mind back onto your breath. Mindfulness, awareness, conscientiousness. Breathing in, breathing out. And if you're so inclined, you can also add the extra technique of counting the breaths from 1 up to 10. 1 in-breath, 1 out-breath is 1, and so on. But if you get distracted counting towards 10, go back to 1 at that time. It's not a competition. It's just an extra technique to help you focus on your breath. If your mind does wander from the breath, because you have some sort of thoughts or you're chasing thoughts, some sort of mental activities, mental agitation, mental feelings, then don't cling to them. Don't grasp at them. Also, don't try to forcefully push them away either. And don't deny them, but simply and naturally replace your mind back onto your breath. Let them go naturally and peacefully by replacing your mind back onto your breath. And if your mind starts to become dull or sleepy, then replace your mind back onto your breath more brightly. This way, replacing the mind back onto the breath, whether you have the agitated mind or the dull mind, by replacing mind onto the breath, you're applying the perfect antidotes or antidote. So now let's practice like this in silence for a little bit. So now we can feel pleased with ourselves for engaging in this short session of breath meditation. And fill yourself with loving kindness. Fill your whole being with this loving kindness. You can just go with the feeling, or you can add the techniques of visualization. Visualize yourself, your whole being filling with white light or white nectar. It's universal loving kindness, this metta or maitri, includes friendliness, acceptance, forgiveness, honesty, appreciation and gratitude, and kindness. Direct antidote for hatred and dislike. Fill yourself with so much loving kindness that it now radiates outwards, initially to your loved ones, family and friends, and fills them with the loving kindness too. May they be happy, may they be free from suffering, and may they be peaceful. And it also includes strangers. Fill them with a loving kindness too, and may they also be happy, free from suffering, and be peaceful. And now also include those you may regard as enemies. Fill them with a loving kindness. And may all of these three types of people, from your own perspective, be happy, have the causes of happiness, be free from suffering and free from the causes of suffering. And may they be free from conflict and be peaceful. You can visualize that they are like this, very happy now, free from all of their sufferings, very peaceful. So now let's extend this loving kindness out further and further, distance-wise, starting around your immediate area, to all living beings now. May all living beings be happy, free from suffering, and be peaceful. All of the living beings that live around your immediate area, like I said, live in the waters, on the land, under the land, fly through the air. Whether they're born from wombs, eggs, moisture, or through transformation. Visualize that they are also happy, free from suffering and peaceful. Now extend this loving kindness out throughout your whole state or county. And other states and counties throughout your whole country. Don't forget to include those beings, maybe animals or insects that for whatever reason you dislike or are fearful of or something. Don't forget to extend the loving kindness to these. And like before, even those you may regard as enemies, whether they're human beings or other creatures, this helps us to develop a mind of equanimity, give up our biases. Now extend the loving kindness out the whole world to other countries initially those that you're familiar with and have an affinity towards, as well as those you're indifferent towards and those you may have some negative feelings towards. and also throughout all of the waterways, all of the oceans, lakes, rivers, to the highest peak, down to the depths of the oceans, all the way to the core of the earth and to the outermost atmosphere. This loving kindness that is generated in your own heart now spreads throughout this whole planet and beyond. Now throughout the whole solar system. And all of the solar systems throughout the galaxy. And all of the galaxies throughout the universe and beyond, until your loving kindness pervades throughout infinite space. Immeasurable, infinite loving kindness, limitless. And now let's do the dedication prayer, keeping this loving kindness in your heart. Due to this merit, may I soon attain the enlightened state of the Buddha, so that I may be able to liberate all sentient beings from their suffering. May the precious bodhicitta, not yet born, arise and grow. May that born have no decline, but increase forevermore. And may the precious view of shunyata, not yet born, arise and grow. May that born have no decline, but increase forevermore. So, I don't know what the weather's like for you in England or in other countries. If people from other countries are participating live today, or looking at the video later, of course. But here, this is really kind of the first glimpse of the summer coming. It's quite warm today. I think maybe in Melbourne, 25 or 26 degrees. Phillip Island, maybe a few degrees less than that, but quite windy, very spring-like sort of summerish weather. So please excuse me if I'm a little bit nasally, if I'm a little bit blocked from the pollen flying through the air. But that's my sufferings. I caused them. I need to give up the causes of these sufferings. Uproot the cause, okay? The attachment that springs from ignorance. I still have a ways to go, as you do too, I imagine. Okay, so we'll continue our discussion, like mentioned before, about verse 8, or the commentary on verse 8 that we started last week. Just to reiterate, the first 2 lines are about maintaining the pure intentions while we are practicing the previous 7 verses, actually. In fact, all of our Dharma practice, especially the generation of Bodhicitta, the altruistic, compassionate intention. Maintaining the pure intention, not having our practice being stained or defiled by the stains of the 8 worldly concerns. Okay, so just to, I'll read it out to you. Without these practices being defiled by the stains of the 8 worldly concerns, by perceiving all phenomena as illusory, I will practice without grasping to release all beings from the bondage of the disturbing, unsubdued mind and karma. The second part of that, which is the largest part of that verse, is it's the ultimate bodhicitta teaching, the perfection of wisdom teaching, okay? So we will maybe get into that a bit today as well. So, ultimate bodhicitta are the last 2 lines. This is to develop our wisdom and compassion. This is to unify the wisdom and compassion and realize the ultimate bodhicitta, which includes the relative bodhicitta, unified or perfected and unified with the perfection of wisdom. In other words, supreme enlightenment. This is our goal on the Dharma path. Of course, the different Buddhist traditions have different ideas, and different individuals have different ideas of what is enlightenment. What is supreme enlightenment? Is it Arahato? Is it Nirvana or Parinirvana? Is it Anuttara, Samyak Sambodhi, or Samma Sambuddha? You know, actually right now it doesn't matter. I would say this to you, have the bodhicitta intention to attain enlightenment for the benefit of all sentient beings. I remember many years ago, you know, when I first started practicing the Dharma more seriously, I thought I studied, as you know, all of the Buddhist traditions or anything that I got my hands on, really, and my eyes on, my mind on. I studied, sometimes formally, sometimes freestyle. And it always sort of occurred to me that I must practice the Dharma to attain enlightenment for the welfare of all sentient beings. And, I wish that they do likewise, not leave anybody behind as such. And of course, some people may say this erroneous view. If you have the ego and think, yes, I'm really good, I'm doing this, I'm better than others, then yes, that's erroneous view. That's practicing based on ego, based on self-centeredness. We want our practice to be free from that. But have this intention, this bodhicitta intention. Like I like to say, use an example of the ladder, and it's 10 rungs, say, the tall ladder, aim for the top. Go all the way to the top. Then you cover the 1, 2, 3, 4, all of those rungs along the way. You will realize the supreme wisdom. You will perfect all of the paramitas and perfect all of the enlightened qualities on the way to realizing unsurpassed supreme enlightenment. So aim for the highest. And if you do that, then maybe if this is the wrong view, you're going to realize eventually, that's the wrong view. Now I'll do this view, just wisdom, But actually, how can we, like I said, leave people behind that have been so kind to us, even nasty to us, helped us to practice, develop more patience, etc.? How can we leave these beings behind? Try not try to help them. And same, they can help you too. Either by their actions, their good actions, so you can follow them yourself, or their bad actions, so you know what not to do, you know what to try to help them to purify, etc. Okay, I went off the branch of the tree a little bit. So the first 2 lines are very critical for the genuine Dharma practitioner, so that we can keep our practice pure, based on pure intentions. The 8 worldly concerns, or like I like to call them, the metaphor of winds. And I'm sure you've seen my teachings about the healthy big oak tree. It's like a teaching on patience, really, but actually patience as well as the other paramitas too. If you live sort of like a big healthy oak tree, deeply rooted in virtue, then these worldly winds won't blow you off the Dharma path. You will recognize them. So in other words, if you continue to practice the Dharma, you will recognize when these concerns arise, when there's concerns that give rise to hopes and fears, these 8 worldly concerns that increase the ego, increase our worries, and so forth, that they will nip them in the bud. So also they're known as 4 pairs if you study them like that. But we've spoken a lot about these 8 worldly winds. In fact, last night I shared a repost from when we were doing the commentary on the 5 skandhas, and it was the last class of those. I think there was maybe 6 to 8 weeks of commentary on the 5 skandhas, and the last class of that also included some commentary on the 8 worldly winds, as well as the previous week, I noticed as well. Okay, so if you want to revisit these classes to have more commentary on the 8 worldly winds and how to deal with them, how to overcome them, or overcome our attachment and aversion to them, then look at these previous classes as well. I'll try not to repeat the examples I'm giving, which is the reason why I basically just gave very obvious ones last week, based on the Dalai Lama's commentary as well. Okay, so here we are. Here's reiterating. So these are attitudes that tend to dominate our lives generally, and like I said, metaphorically blow us off our Dharma path. Gain, being joyful when you acquire wealth. Loss, feeling dispirited when you become poor. Pleasure, feeling happy or experiencing some sort of pleasure when you experience success. Pain, being depressed when you experience failure or experience pain. Praise, becoming elated when you're praised. Blame, becoming depressed when you're insulted or belittled. Fame, being pleased when you have fame or are famous. And shame, lack of fame, feeling down when you lack recognition. Those times when you do something, maybe it's work or whatever it may be, and you actually don't realize it, but really what you're trying to do is impress others. maybe by what you're saying, what you're doing, whatever. And then nobody notices. And maybe this is when you're sort of experiencing this shame or infamy, lack of fame, maybe we can just call it that. That's when you're experiencing that, because actually you want to be praised. You want to be famous. You want to be well known for doing something that you find sort of important. But maybe it doesn't happen. Those times when it doesn't happen like that. As a musician, especially a young musician, trying to do a performance, trying to impress others, and at the end of the song, nobody claps. And so, that type of feeling. It's not so serious as such, but when we reinforce this type of behavior, then it becomes so habitual for us. It's almost, it feels like this is our natural way, and we can't undo it. And that way we'll always be upset, insulted, always feel down about stuff. And the opposite as well, feel puffed up when we do get some sort of recognition. I remember when I first, this is digressing slightly, but I just had a funny memory. When I first shaved, used my dad's razor, and I think it was my dad's razor anyway. He's the only other male in the house, so I can't get my mum's shaking her head there. And so I remember I must have been 14 or 15 or maybe 16. I can't remember when I started getting proper whiskers, probably much later. But I had this little, what we used to nickname bum fluff. The sort of fluff that you get on your bum. Sorry about that, but it used to be called bum fluff. And I had that little bit of moustache thing going on there. So I remember it was a Sunday evening, and obviously going to school the next day. I had become interested, in the previous years as well as this time, in impressing the young girls, trying to impress all the time. But actually, I was quite shy in many areas too, though. And so I shaved. And I went out into the living room with my sister there, mom and dad there. Nobody noticed. I was really deflated. I just thought I'd share that story with you, and I have shared it with you in the past as well. So back to this. Also, we want to gain things generally, especially gaining wealth, gaining some sort of fame and fortune. So gaining the other ones, gaining some pleasure. We don't want to lose what we want or want to keep. We don't want to experience loss. In other words, maybe losing our wealth, losing our possessions that we like. We don't want to do these things. But like I said last week, we can also reverse these as well by giving the examples of you don't want to gain something that you don't want. You don't want to lose, or you do want to lose something that you don't want. That simple example last week I gave was a cold. If you had a cold, you don't want to gain that. You don't want to keep it. You want to lose it. Okay, so like that. So we like to be praised. We don't like to be insulted or belittled or blamed for things. But if we do experience this, then we can look inside our mind and learn from that. Learn that it's our habitual tendencies to react like that. Into the skandhas again. So the fourth skandha, this is a habitual tendency from the past. And in the present, we can change that, because you remember that it's not static. These skandhas are not static. They're actually dynamic and fluent. So we can change. We can change for the better. So let's do that. We move on from that now. So from that verse again, or those lines, without these practices being defiled by the stains of the 8 worldly concerns. Okay, so we've covered that basically, even though I'm going to continue on with that right now. Okay, we should ensure that our cultivation of bodhicitta, altruism, is not defiled by these worldly concerns, as I started out with today. Example, and this is a Dalai Lama example that I'm embellishing and putting into my own words. And I've used this example in the past in face-to-face classes. I can't remember if I've done it during these Zoom classes. But if, as I'm giving this teaching, I have even the slightest thought in the back of my mind that I hope you admire me, then this indicates that my motivation is defiled by these worldly concerns. So even as a teacher, right, or especially as a teacher, if I'm expecting to gain something, then my teachings and my practice, my trying to maintain or generate and maintain this bodhicitta intention is defiled at that time, stained at that time. Okay, if I'm trying to lose something as well, so the opposites come into play. Okay, if I'm looking for pleasure while I'm teaching, even though I do experience pleasure while I'm teaching, and try to avoid pain, if these enter my mind, even in the back of my mind at that time, then I'm tainting the teachings. I'm tainting my own practice, my own, you could say, developing good conditions for merit and so forth. Okay, the same. It's likewise with the praise. If I'm doing this to be praised, to be blamed, to avoid being blamed. If I'm looking for fame, and if I'm try to avoid shame. If these just come in a little tiny bit, then the teachings are in sort of defiled. You could say, I couldn't find a better word than that, even though that's not a perfect word. But and also my practice is defiled at that time. And it's the same for you guys. You're listening to the Dharma talk. If you're looking for faults in the Dharma talk, for instance, then this is related to these 8 worldly words, worldly winds. And so if you're thinking, I want to be famous, I want to even to impress the teacher, then actually you're defiling your own practice at that time. In fact, if I'm sure you can understand that at that moment, your mind is on something else rather than listening to the Dharma teaching. You're thinking ahead, so you need to keep your mind in the moment, listen to the teaching, put into practice the wisdom of hearing, contemplate it later, and then even contemplate your state of mind as well as you do that. Was I listening properly? Did I have pure intentions? If we realize we didn't, then say, next time, it's no big deal right now, but next time I'm going to resolve to have good intentions, maintain the pure intention. And then, of course, we must absorb our mind with the Dharma, with what we've heard. So really focus on that, not be blown about by these 8 worldly winds. So it's 1 page done out of, I think, maybe 8 foolscap pages, but really big writing, so it's not going to take too long. It is very important to check our intentions. I've already covered that. Make sure it is a bodhicitta intention. Make sure that it is the altruistic intention and not a selfish intention. Remember, the bodhicitta intention or altruistic intention, it can also be known as the antidote for self-centeredness in our practice. It actually goes way beyond that. But as soon as we get selfish in the practice, then think of others, other living beings. Have the wish, or first of all, realize all living beings have been your mothers in previous lives, relatives. Have the wish that they attain enlightenment, that you will do whatever you can to have this happen or help them to achieve this. It takes your mind off yourself. Takes your mind off your self-centeredness. Okay. So if your mind is selfish while you're doing this practice or even hearing these teachings, then correct it. That's all you have to do. Apply the antidote. It's not such a big deal. Maybe a bigger deal is if you wanted to kill me, and then maybe really, really correct it. Okay. But actually, just look after your mind. Look after your intentions. Make sure they're pure. We may apply altruistic ideals in our everyday lives, but if all of a sudden we feel proud about it and may think, I'm a great practitioner, then immediately these 8 worldly concerns defile our practice. Can you see that? So in all of our lives, just about all of the moments in our lives, if we are truly practicing with good intention, as soon as we think, I'm really good, I'm a great practitioner, then these worldly concerns are in play. We want to impress others. We don't want others to see our faults. If that's the case, then how can we look at our faults really, if we're trying to cover up our faults? We need to look at our faults so that we can purify them. We can overcome them. We can apply the antidotes to them and eventually develop the great qualities, the good qualities, right? And it's the same if we think, I hope I'm admired for what I'm doing, which I just covered, expecting to receive praise for our efforts. Don't expect it. You may get it. And if you do get it, don't get puffed up. Just appreciate it and see it as encouragement to continue practicing well on the Dharma path. 1 minute already. Okay, so that's all right. See, these types of attitudes and thoughts that spoil our practice, they really do spoil the practice. You could say defile the practice. That's the word I've used. It is important to ensure this does not happen. So we keep our practice pure. As you can see, these mind transformation teachings are very powerful. I'll leave it there today, okay? They really make you think, don't they? Another verse that comes to mind, actually, I won't read that verse, I'll get cut off. But there's another verse there that Dalai Lama mentioned, and from a different thought transformation teaching that is really poignant too. Okay, so I will read you that next week and give commentary on it. All right, so practice well and be happy.